is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea, then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Emily Ferrier, here to bring you some of my favorite weird news stories that have been going on. During this situation. Quarantine's been fun. So, first off, video game players have been urged to play at reasonable times to avoid putting extra strain on internet networks during, the outbreak. Social distancing measures to curb the spread of the virus has led to a large number of people working from home or self-isolating, increasing daytime internet traffic. While people remain indoors, PC gaming platform Steam has reported a record number of gamers online in recent days, recording 20 million players online at once for the first time last weekend. And it's reached a similar figure twice since according its own data. Internet service providers have insisted that they can handle already confirmed increases in daytime traffic. Both BT and Virgin Media said on Friday that even though they are seeing an increase in traffic, it's still well within its capacity limits. We all do need to be aware of the impact of our country's network infrastructure and game at more reasonable times, says Rick Henderson, a video games expert and a senior editor of news and features from UK-based technology Pocket Lint. Said people turning to games during isolation was inevitable as means of entertainment and social interaction, but he urged players to be aware of going online during work hours. While video game streaming services such as Netflix and YouTube are committed to reducing their digital footprint, gaming is the biggest threat to the internet bandwidth in the next few months. Some services have seen spikes in user activity, including FIFA Online and Steam Access. That will only continue as people turn their gaming devices to keep entertained during self-isolation. To be honest, though, it's understandable as we are removing ourselves from physical social interaction the next 12 weeks. Online games can provide other forms of social contact and friendship without the risk of infection. Fortnite, Call of Duty, Warzone, and the like will therefore no doubt become even more popular as isolation continues. We do not need to be aware of the impact of our country's network, infrastructure, and perhaps game at more reasonable times. In the evening, say, to avoid any impact on important services and work, as consumer internet connections are less robust than usual business lines. Call of Duty Warzone is the new free-to-play game from the popular Warfare series was released earlier last week. Within 5 days, had already amassed more than 15 million players. Last week, an Italian telecoms company told an analyst that it had seen a 70% increase in internet traffic. Telecom Italia told analysts that it was believed that the rise was due to a surge of online gaming as the country went into lockdown and schools were closed. In response to concerns over network capacities across Europe, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and YouTube have all confirmed that they are limiting the image quality of videos to help ease levels of internet traffic. This is not the first time that we've broken the internet. So here are 25 times in the past that somebody broke the internet in the last decade. Alright, so Jennifer Aniston was the latest star to break the internet. She joined Instagram last October and set a new Guinness World Record for the fastest account to amass 1 million followers. It took 5 hours and 16 minutes. But it's not just celebrities that have sent the internet into a spin. So we're going to take a look at the last 10 years, the viral moments that broke the internet. The Oscar selfie, when Ellen DeGeneres hosted the Oscars in 2014, she took a photo with her famous friends, Jennifer Lawrence, Bradley Cooper, Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, Meryl Streep, to name a few. So it's fair that it got 3.47 million shares. Went on to become the most retweeted tweet of all time until a teenager's request for free chicken nuggets knocked it off the top spot in 2017. The most liked tweet in history, still to this day, is Barack Obama. President Barack Obama topping the list with a poignant message in the aftermath of Charlottesville violence in 2017. The photo of him smiling at children of different races was captioned, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or religion." It garnered 4.4 million likes and 1.6 million retweets. The most followed person on Instagram was footballer Cristiano Ronaldo, top spot with a massive 188 million followers, and a photo of him announcing his allegiance to the Juventus football club. His most popular post with 12.3 million likes. Ariana Grande is the next most loved person with 166 million followers. And next to her is Selena Gomez, who has 160 million. Kim Kardashian's butt. Remember when Kim Kardashian posed on the cover of Paper magazine in 2014? That with a caption that said, "Break the internet, Kim Kardashian," and it did. The photo Jean-Paul Gaultier took was a winking an homage to his 1976 champagne incident, but the Kim K version was a lot more famous. It spurred countless memes and honed its own slot on SNL and had us talking about it for weeks. In the same family, Caitlyn Jenner's reveal, the Caitlyn cover on Vanity Fair in July 2015. Jenner tweeted, "I'm so happy after such a long struggle to be living my own true self. Welcome to the world, Caitlyn. Can't wait for you to get to know me." And we got more. So we'll talk about that when we come back. from the break. So don't go anywhere, okay? Still on this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Alright, welcome back. We were talking about things that have broken the internet. And guess what? We're still on it because there's a lot. And right before the break we were talking about the Jenner family. We're still on the Jenner family. Stormi's birth. And Kylie Jenner posted this photo announcing the birth of daughter Stormi back in February 2018. It became the most liked Instagram post ever, clocking up to 18 million likes. But then, the Instagram egg. This parody post was set up by an advertising creative in London to try and knock out Kylie Jenner's most liked post off the top spot, and it worked. The world record egg photo was liked by 52 million people, smashing Kylie's record. The billionaire took the news well and responded with a joke video of her breaking an egg on the pavement. Something tells me it wasn't a joke. So Jennifer Aniston posting her selfie with the friends in 12 hours attracted 5 million followers and she has 18.5 million now. And her Instagram post went down, or her page went down immediately. Beyonce's pregnancy picture, when she announced that she was pregnant with twins in 2017, she revealed it with this photo, and it became the most liked Instagram post of that year, clocking up to 11.1 million hearts. When Meghan Markle went back on social media with a joint account with her husband Prince Harry under their official name, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Their Sussex Royal Instagram account gained over 1 million followers in just a few hours. It now has 9.8 million, and they've shared some sweet snaps of baby Archie, along with details of their charity work. The hot felon picture. Nowadays, he is known as he's married to Chloe Green and has a child with her. Oh no, just has a child with her. In 2014, Jeremy Meeks went viral when police in California circulated his mugshot. His chiseled looks and piercing blue eyes quickly led him to being dubbed the hot felon. Within weeks of being released from prison, he was offered modeling contracts. Yeah, pretty stunning. Take a look at it. Keanu Reeves, as the internet's boyfriend, his new love and longtime friend Alexandria Grant, his first girlfriend in decades. But Keanu's acts of kindness, such as giving up his seat on the subway, which went viral in 2011, and organizing a bus for stranded plane passengers, captured the internet's hearts. Photos of me eating a sandwich alone on a park bench in NYC also sparked the sad Keanu meme. We love Keanu. Drake's Hotline Bling video. The Canadian rapper is now a household name, but no one could have predicted the success of his music video Hotline Bling, which topped 1 billion views. Goofing around and showing off his dance moves certainly paid off. It was a meme, the best meme of 2015, and the most streamed artist on Spotify on 2015, 16, and 18. Gangnam Style, the famous dance that broke the internet. Most popular song of the 20th century. Psy's hit in 2012 became the most viewed music video on YouTube, 3.4 billion plays, and netted him 8 million. When Zayn Malik quit One Direction, that broke the internet. The internet lost its mind when Zayn left One Direction in 2015. He said, "I'm leaving because I want a normal 22-year-old life, being able to relax and have private time out of the spotlight." And Ariana Grande's tribute to Mac Miller. Grande posted a picture of Mac Miller after the world learned about his passing. There was no text to go with the photo. It was just Mac looking up at her when they were a couple. The image was liked 12.7 million times. Trump's Kavafe tweet. The president inadvertently invented a new word when he tweeted shortly after midnight on May 31st, 2017. Despite the constant negative press, Kavafe tweet was up for a few hours before it was deleted, but that was long enough for the madness to erupt on the internet, with thousands of people speculating what he meant. Even Hillary Clinton got a few jabs in, saying people in Kavafe houses shouldn't throw Kavafe. The Ice Bucket Challenge also broke the internet. Everyone, from celebrities Lindsay Lohan getting dunked by Jimmy Fallon, to President Barack Obama took part in the Ice Bucket Challenge, which involved pouring ice-cold water over your head and posting it on social media. It started off as a movement to spread awareness of ALS, turned into breaking the internet. The Mannequin Challenge, the trend seeing people remaining frozen while a moving camera films them. In 2016, Solange and Jay-Z's elevator fight. Sparked the hashtag, "What did Jay-Z say to Solange?" Breaking the internet. Madonna's speech at the MTV MMVAs was supposed to pay tribute to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, who died just before the MMVAs, or the MTV VMAs, but instead Madonna was accused of making the tribute about herself, causing the internet into a frenzy. Scarlett Johansson tweeted that she could play a tree, saying, "I should be allowed to play any person, tree, or animal because that's my job," after controversy on some roles she was cast in. The internet did not respond well. Melania's jacket. The First Lady sparking controversy when she was pictured wearing a jacket with the words, "I really don't care, do you?" But you, just the letter U. When she was visiting a detained immigrant center in Texas. Insensitive. Okay, so the death of Cecil the Lion. American dentist and big game hunter Walter Palmer killing the lion in 2015. Celebrities condemned the killing, and Cecil's image was embolized on the Empire State Building. And the biggest break of the internet, the dress. Was it blue, black, or white and gold? Who can forget this controversy? A simple Tumblr post in 2015 clearly showed a white and gold dress, or was it a blue and black dress? Thanks to a confounding trick of the eye, within a week, there were 10 million tweets arguing about it, and it became known as the hashtag the dress. Celebrities like Justin Bieber and Kim Kardashian jumped onto the fray. And apparently, according to the source, the dress was actually blue and black, which I did not see. So, we were all tricked by this phenomenon. So those are some times the internet has been broken that wasn't this. So it's fun. Trying to give you some fun stuff too. Because not a lot of fun going on right now. I don't know about you guys, but for me, not a lot of fun. Not a lot of fun. So, yeah. when we come back. We're going to France to see some weird updates, I guess. Yeah, we're all in this together, guys. Stay with me. We're going to get through it.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. For the break, we were talking about breaking the internet. And now, France's homeless were fined for not staying indoors during the COVID lockdown. French police have fined several homeless people for breaching government order to stay indoors. Charities claim President Emmanuel Macron declared a nationwide policy of self-isolation on Monday, with all French people asked to stay at home as much as possible, going out only for work, exercise, or necessary shopping. The measure is to last 15 days, and people not following the rules risk fines from 38 to 135 euro. Homeless people were fined in Paris, Lyon, and Bayonne, according to the charities, but those who have no place to stay find themselves in a catch-22. They have nowhere to go, but they can't stay in public. We ask for clear advice to be sent to local authorities to immediately stop these sanctions. Florent Guggen, the director of France's Federation of Solidarity, which includes 800 charities fighting against poverty and homelessness, told the AFP. Maud Bigot, the director of Leon branch of Samu Social, said her team had received dozens of calls in 2 days from homeless people who'd been threatened with a fine for being in the streets. She said she heard a similar case in cases like Lille, Bordeaux, and Toulouse. I had someone on the phone who was absolutely panicked. There isn't enough housing centers, and the shopping centers and the places they would usually go to hide have closed. People are terrified because the police have told them that they are giving them a fine, or they will be fined if they don't find shelter. In the next few days, France is to open self-isolation centers for the homeless with COVID who cannot be isolated in housing centers and whose health doesn't necessitate to go to a hospital. This will not help the homeless without symptoms who still don't have anywhere to go, Bigot says. In the deserted streets, they're all we can see, even though the police only threaten to fine them, and it's enough to terrorize them, she says. There is only one public shower in Lyon. We've asked the authorities to let the homeless use public swimming pools to shower. This is a drama unfolding in real time for the homeless who already feel extremely fragile. It's like a double penalty. The Lyon prefecture has said that these fines, if confirmed after internal investigation, would be immediately void due to being contrary to instructions. France's total quarantine has been in place since Tuesday. All French citizens must print a sign and delay official authorization to go for work, shopping, or short exercise, or be fined 135 euro. In other news, Tasmania cut itself off from Australia, claiming we've got a moat. Australia's southern island, the state of Tasmania, is quarantining itself in the mainland to stop the spread. After Saturday, anyone who enters, even from elsewhere in the country, will have to spend 14 days in isolation. We've got a Moat, and we're not afraid to use it. Read the front page of Tasmania's Mercury newspaper on Friday. Even after State Premier Peter Gutwein declared a state of emergency and the toughest border restrictions in Australia. Australia requires people returning from overseas to self-isolate for 14 days and is banning all foreigners and non-residents from entering on Friday night, but no other state has imposed restrictions on domestic travel. As of Friday, Tasmania had 10 cases of COVID with no fatalities. The nation total is 785 cases and 7 deaths. Restrictions, however, will not apply to the Aurora Australis carrying 55 Antarctic expeditioners and 26 crew, which are to dock Tuesday. Many of the expeditioners have spent 12 months living in Antarctic Macquarie Island conducting scientific research. They've been in splendid isolation, said Australian Antarctic Division Operations Manager Rob Clifton, as well as people traveling directly from Australia's bases in Antarctica. Tasmania will exempt health emergency and transport workers from its quarantine requirement. Australia's 3 bans on the Antarctic continent, Mawson, Davis, and Casey, have been completely cut off, Clinton says. These expeditioners and the people on the International Space Station are probably the most secure people in the human population. Tasmania is a 1-hour flight or 10-hour ferry crossing from the mainland city of Melbourne, which is 445 kilometers away. 40% of the island's wilderness or protected areas. Qantas Airways is reducing flights to Tasmania from March 29th, but the island's ferry service will continue to carry freight from the mainland. We'll have to get the essential supplies we need. Tourism, international students, seafood, and dairy are Tasmania's major exports. Wow. With China a major customer. Tasmania-based Huon Agriculture, which produces 19,000 tons of fish a year from coastal salmon farms, is classified as well as an essential service under the new border rules, which gives it priority access to freight space. Online sales for Huon salmon doubled in March as an anxiety over food supply gripped the mainland Australia. Remember that everyone has to eat, founder Peter Bender said in an email to staff. People might be unable to go to the pub, movies, or visit a sporting venue, but they still have to eat. Some fun facts about moats, since they're threatening them with a moat. Archaeological evidence suggests that moats got their start in ancient Egypt, but we're not sure if it's defensive or agricultural. Big moat really took off in Europe. They were a great way to guard against the use of siege weapons like battering rams and siege because of the methods of attack rallied upon closer proximity to castle walls. Popular depictions of moats in TVs and movies usually involve wet moats. But is it a myth? Could be. It's unlikely that they'd be able to survive in a moat. Bond villains often use this, but it seems improbable. When we come back, we're going to talk about, other stuff related to this, obviously, particularly stolen toilet paper. So, stay tuned for that. Thrilling stuff. Got to talk about these things. This is the day that we're living in. All right? when we come back from the break.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about moats, excluding Tasmania from mainland Australia. And now, we're going to talk about deputies who found 18,000 pounds of toilet paper in stolen tractor trailer truck in North Carolina. So, deputies at the Guilford County Sheriff's Office discovered toilet paper stolen in a trailer tractor truck during a traffic stop on Wednesday. Sheriff Danny Rogers said the deputies initiated a traffic investigation involving the 18-wheeler along the interstate 40 in Whitsett after a motor vehicle law violation. Investigators said they followed the vehicle to a warehouse dog facility in a short distance off the interstate and encountered the driver. Deputies determined the 53-foot Hyundai dry-van trailer was reported stolen locally and was being utilized to transport nearly 18,000 pounds of commercial bathroom toilet paper products. As the coronavirus outbreak spreads in North Carolina and the United States, toilet paper has become the ultimate symbol of panic buying in grocery stores and supermarkets, and newspaper have been printing blank pages as a substitute for toilet paper amongst the shortages. Sounds horrible. There's also this little video that came out of what people are doing to social distance from their dogs. This man posted a video using a drone to walk his dog to practice social distancing. While it's currently not believed your pet could contract the novel coronavirus, they can still carry the virus on their fur or skin. So that's made this daily walk once a leisurely chore, now a worrisome task. Vakis Demetrio, a local resident of Cyprus, which is currently in a government-mandated lockdown, found a creative way to practice social distancing while still taking his dog for a walk. So, Oliver in the video walks his dog in an empty street, guided by a drone. Camera pans to show Demetrio operating the drone from the balcony. In a Facebook post, he advised that other pet owners consider their pets in the pandemic as well. 5th day of quarantine. Stay safe, but don't forget your dog's happiness. So yeah, what are other people doing to social distance? So there's some stars that have some fun ideas. Kevin Bacon is offering up some fun ways to social distance. The actor who's been deemed Hollywood's most interconnected figure through the concept of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon took his social platform yesterday to encourage millions of followers to practice social distancing, but also to share who they're staying home with for the current health crisis. Hey folks, you know me. I'm technically only 6 degrees away from you, he said in his video. And he says, I stay home for Kyra Sedgwick. It's important now to stay home and keep distance from others if you're able. It's the only way to prevent the spread and save lives, he says. We're all connected by various degrees. Trust me, I know. I'm kicking it off with Jimmy Fallon, Elton John, Brandy Carly, Kevin Hart, Demi Lovato, and David Beckham. Every one of us has someone worth staying home for. And he stays home for his wife, Kyra Sedgwick. So he tagged these stars. Elton John responded promptly, holding a sign that says, I stay home for David Furnish, tagging his partner of 25 years, with whom he shares Zachary and Elijah, 9 and 7. Today it's snakes and ladders and staying inside to stop the spread. He's playing some games with his kids and family. Demi Lovato followed suit, saying that she stays home for her parents. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now, but if there's one thing that matters, it's spreading love, Demi says. David Beckham says, I'm staying home for Victoria and our kids, including Cruzy, who's made his way into the photo. He said with a glimpse of his 15-year-old son's forehead that's kind of snuck its way into the portrait. And they've been tagging a bunch of friends in it, which is sort of fun. And he's nominated Brooklyn Beckham, David Gardner, Rosemary Ferguson, Gordon Graham, and James Corden in his. So that is becoming very fun. We'll see if they respond today. Hopefully they will. What are you doing for social distancing? I would like to know what people are doing to keep their social distance. Are you going on the online resources? Are you doing the, there's all of these online museums. I think there's 2,500 different museums that are offering up their little virtual tours there for this time. Broadway has loads of streamable things that you can do like a 7-day free trial with. There's loads of online free courses. You can audit some free courses at Ivy League institutions. There's absolutely loads of things that you can do today. Just keep it going. Tell us what you're doing. We're interested. When we come back, we're going to talk about the essential services that New York is deeming essential. And then get into that a little more. So don't go anywhere. There's even more coming up for you after the break. Just don't go anywhere. There's more.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about social distancing. And now, yes, New York, liquor stores are still deemed an essential business. In New York, liquor stores qualify as an essential business and will be exempt from Governor Andrew Cuomo's executive order for all non-essential workers to stay at home. According to the New York State Liquor Association, the exemption applies to all SLA licensed entitees. Friday morning, the governor ordered 100% of non-essential workers to stay at home to try and contain the spread, which has reached nearly 9,000 people in New York. There will be a fine and mandatory closure for any business not in compliance. Many liquor stores in the area were bustling with people on Friday, including the Liquor World of Syracuse and East Syracuse, were probably 3 times as busy and were usually on Friday, said the store's manager, Sunny Singh. People are coming in and stocking up, so instead of buying a bottle or 2, they're buying 6 bottles, more cases. The governor also announced that non-essential gatherings were canceled and that New Yorkers should remain indoors to the greatest extent and possible to protect their physical and mental health. Inspired by this, I want to tell you guys some fun bootlegger stories because that's what this reminded me of. Because if we did cut off the sale of alcohol, we would for sure have a second round of bootleggers, it would be just like the 20s. So, the first one, Roy Olmsted. Roy Olmsted joined the Seattle police force 9 years before Washington State went dry. So by the time he and his partners started bustling bootleggers, he knew his way around the city. He also noticed something sad about all the busts they were making. They were sloppy, careless, and were missing so many obvious things that would make them much better at their chosen profession. Wasn't long before he decided he could do much better and started running his own bootlegging business on the side. Alcohol was still legal in Canada, so Olmsted purchased Canadian liquor and shipped it into the U.S. Apparently it was harder than it looked because he was soon busted himself, fined $500, and kicked out of the police force. Not one to give up easily, he turned his business from a side job to full-time work, quickly building up the largest bootlegging empire in Seattle. He was one of the region's largest employers, bringing in about $200,000 a month. After taking a step from his police department salary, Olmsted started rubbing elbows with the highest of upper class by buying a mansion for himself and his wife. Her hobbies included reading children's bedtime stories over her own radio station every night. Their lavish lifestyle was short-lived, though, and their mansion was raided in 1924. The conviction was based largely on recordings law enforcement had collected from illegal tapping. Olmsted knew about the wiretapping. He knew it was illegal. Was confident that whatever evidence they collected wouldn't be used in court. However, the judge at his trial accepted the evidence. So did the Supreme Court. Olmsted ended up serving 4 years, but was ultimately pardoned by Franklin Roosevelt. Fort Whoop-Up. In the 1860s, in the American West was the land of rugged hunters, trappers, and gold prospectors. It's also highly illegal to trade their spoils for Canadian whiskey, so they headed up to the source of whiskey itself in Alberta and established a trading post for what might be the most epic name for the trading post ever. Fort Whoop-Up became known as the place to trade skins and hides for whiskey. It also made a lot of people very wealthy. Problems started when the fort became incredibly popular, and eventually its expansion led to the dangerous melting pot. In addition to furs and alcohols, there were many firearms. Nearby Native American tribes had a tendency to clash with white traders. When American traders brought smallpox with them, the disease started running through the Cree and Blackfoot tribes. Knowing the other was vulnerable, this escalated conflict, making Canadian government take notice of the trading loophole at Fort Whoop-Up. Ultimately, a group of 300 Canadian Mounties were sent to put an end to trading and discreetly establish a firm Canadian military presence to discourage the traders from moving on and settling up elsewhere. Pharmaceutical chains. The years of Prohibition saw the opening of countless drugstores and pharmacy chains in the country. The reason was quite straightforward. They had suddenly become a lucrative business. Not all alcohol had suddenly become illegal. It was acceptable to distill and bottle whiskey, but only for medicinal purposes. What does that sound like now? History repeating itself with marijuana. These bottles were required to have a prescription, presumably issued by a doctor, fixed to the back to be stamped bottled in bond, contained whiskey that was 100% proof. Prescriptions could be refilled every 10 days. And the legality of selling whiskey through a pharmacy front for bootleggers. So this is the nod to the idea that was in F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, where Gatsby made his living off a chain of drugstores. It was a blatant reference to the bootleg operation. Oddly enough, by the time the American Medical Association had already gone on record saying that alcohol was not recommended medicine for anything, the legislator enacted Prohibition, ignored this minor detail, which meant a huge number of whiskey bottles were sold with labels that that showed that their contents were unexcelled for medicinal purposes. Most prescriptions given to the few people who even bothered with them said that the bottles were used for an emergency. Some of the drugstore chains saw an unprecedented growth through the Prohibition that are still around today. The number of Walgreens stores in the country skyrocketed throughout the Prohibition years, although official story is that it was due to the popularity of their recently introduced milkshakes, but we know better. There are some more stories about the Prohibition era that I'm particularly intrigued by, so we will continue that when we come back from our break, because we have to take another break. We have quite a few more stories, and then I'll let you get on with your lives. So come back for the break for a final segment about the Prohibition era.
The GSMC GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Talking about the Prohibition era, some fun stories from the Prohibition era. Because, just in case it turns into that, we can have some ideas here. Thrilling stuff, guys. Thrilling stuff. All right. Jenny Justo was one of a handful of women who earned the title of Queen of the Bootleggers. In Justo's case, it certainly didn't define who she was after the Prohibition era ended. Her real name was Vincenza di Guillermo, and she was following her family's tradition of living on the wrong side of the law. Her father was killed. It was supposedly payback for her brother rattling out his bank heist accomplices after it fell to Jenny to support her younger siblings. Since her mother and other brothers also had run-ins with law enforcement, it's nice that it runs in the family. Unlike many bootleggers, Jenny was known around town for her upstanding speakeasies and clientele. It was not surprising that she would want to keep things clean. She was running her speakeasy out of her home. However, it wasn't long before she was targeted by law enforcement. Rumor had it she turned down a federal agent's offer for a date, and after that she wasn't allowed to practice any sort of peace. She was ultimately arrested. After spending 6 months in jail, upon her release, she was greeted by loyal customers with flowers. Something of a parade right back to the speakeasy. She was arrested again shortly thereafter, but the landlord took the fall for her. This is all for nothing, though. She was still jailed on prohibition violation. She was released after prohibition was repealed, and then ultimately married Chicago Bears quarterback Arthur Bramall. Together they opened a completely legal bar. What a nice little story. Rum Row. With illegal U.S. territory, the next logical step was to take the party elsewhere. For bootleggers who looked to the seas to move their liquor, it meant Rum Row. Legally, the U.S. government had no control over the seas about 5 kilometers out, so rum runners and bootleggers would simply park their ships just off the East Coast and let word of mouth do the rest. Ships were bringing rum in from the Caribbean and liquor from Europe, as long as they stayed back behind the 3-mile mark so no one could do anything about it. Law enforcement didn't like rum runners giving them completely illegal middle finger, though they renegotiated the distance after 1924, and then they would have to control waters outside the country's land for 19 kilometers, 12 miles, making it much more difficult for bootleggers to hold their parties. The ships of Rum Row had been well stocked for patrons, and this meant they were also prime targets. Those that owned and ran the boats were notoriously well armed, but it didn't deter many pirates. There were recorded accounts. There was a French ship plundered $800,000 worth of liquor over the course of 10 days. Other ships were simply found stripped and floating without a crew. A particularly resourceful group of pirates distinguished their ship as a Coast Guard vessel and boarded rum runners dressed as U.S. military. The ships of the rum runners were also very vulnerable. As the strip of the sea, they set up camp, plagued by dense fog and unpredictable waves leading to many crashing on the shores of New York and New Jersey. America's small-time female bootleggers. Selling illegal alcohol, making a mint wasn't just a man's game. There were also a large number of female bootleggers that worked in different areas of the county, particularly in the West. Their homes were further apart and everything was more remote, making it more difficult for anyone to keep track of who was running in their yard or kitchen. Most of these women supplied local bars and speakeasies, did quite well with themselves. One Missouri-born woman named Birdie Brown moved to Montana, selling a 25-acre homestead with a large log home, fields of crops, animals, and a fence around her entire property, a setup that cost quite a bit of money. She did, of course, fund her lifestyle with a home brew, touted through the area as best in the country. Her story did not have a happy ending, though, as she was killed when her still exploded. Even though most were operating a much smaller scale than the likes of Al Capone, they were certainly no less creative. Marianne Moriarty ran her laundry business and taught her daughter delivering clients clean clothes. Very good stuff. Along with flasks tucked into their laundry, charging $2 per gallon. Along with former dance hall girl Josephine Doty scared railroad men as her clients. The train pulled into town, they would blow a horn for every gallon that they wanted. And women also had the benefit of being regulated by the relatively lenient male law enforcement judges, who were softer on them than the male bootleggers. Gray-haired mother Kate Farland, the 80-year-old Lavina Gilman, were given every consideration due to their gender and age, even considering that Gilman had been busted running a 300-gallon still. What a legend. Maggie Bailey started making and selling her own moonshine during the Prohibition era. She kept on doing it well after Prohibition was repealed. She loved it so much that she kept it up for almost 90 years. She was regularly harassed by law enforcement before and after Prohibition, since white moonshine she was selling wasn't legal after. State and federal agents found it difficult to get any charges to stick on the Kentucky woman, who would attend court clad in a flower-printed apron with her gray hair and grandmotherly air. Oh, legend. She was loved by the people she sold her shine to, not just because it was their source for the drink, but when people were struggling through the Depression, she'd give them it on credit, allowing them to sell the liquor themselves, pay her back, make a little more money for themselves as well. She knew everyone in town, and she knew when they were having a tough time. She also was well known for bringing food to hungry families and financing her children's education. She made a point not to sell to children or to people she knew had problems with alcohol abuse. In her nearly nine decades of bootlegging, she served 18 months in jail on her only conviction that others stuck. She died in 2005 at age 101. And she was fond of saying that the excitement of her chosen pastime was what kept her young. Thank you for listening to the Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Please subscribe to the show, write a review, rate, follow us on all social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.